This is the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, and you are listening to Potsy and Tino on the Potsy and Tino Show.
It's the Potsy and Tino Show. Talk the facts and let opinions flow. Laughs, hot takes, and maybe a rant. Two best buds with a mic and a plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Pots and Pans Network brings to you its tag team champions of the world. Going solo at this time is Potsy. Tino may join here in a bit, but wanted to make sure we got the show started on time, so I am here. I am ready. Got my third monitor actually working this week. Last week it was giving me trouble, and I had to move all different stuff around. Actually, I have to check right now to see whether or not we're what level we're actually broadcasting. I don't even know. Maybe we're 720 again. I don't know. Let's say general visual effects. No, we're just going with whatever it says we're on. Oh, it does say we're full 1080p. So anyways, folks, Tino may join later. He is currently busy. Michael Turner, welcome back to the show. You weren't here last week. We missed you. But want to go ahead and start talking about some of the cool stuff coming up. Just with the What's Up With You. Tino's actually teaching a class right now for his job, so that's why he's not here at the moment. So you got me to deal with. Hopefully that's okay. Hopefully you enjoy hanging out with me and putting stuff in the chat so that I've got stuff to read so I can chat along with you guys. What's up with me? Quite a bit is all of a sudden going on. This past week, Heroes Con, my favorite convention for comics, Charlotte, June 12th through 14th, I believe it is. Might be 14th through 16th. I'll have to look at the dates, but middle of June, it's normally Father's Day weekend. I think it's the weekend before it this year. I'll be in Charlotte. I've already got my hotel and was announced as one of the featured guests earlier this week. A really cool thing about being announced as one of the featured guests is I was actually put on the poster this year. For those that don't know, there are legends on that poster. So my name being listed alongside so many other great artists, writers, and creators of comics is just truly an honor. So I am absolutely pleased and happy about all that. For those that, a couple other things that I got going on. A lot of people don't really know this, but we at Keen Spot, so myself and Chris Crosby, the publisher, are trying to think a little bit more outside the box with some of the stuff that we've got going on this year in terms of where you'll see me, and it might not be the places you expect. So while Heroes Con and San Diego are still on the books for this year, a lot of the other conventions that you might have seen me in years past might not be at this year because I'm doing other stuff that I don't think I can announce yet. So I'm not going to go ahead and say it, but I am pretty excited about what we are doing because it could mean seeing Keen Spot projects in different places. So I'm excited about that. And I think anybody who's read our comics before should also be excited about that. Now, updates on comic book projects. I finished the dialoguing for the Zor 2-page free comic book day story, which I believe Michael is taking care of the lettering on that. And I finished the scripting on the 2-page story for the junior high horrors. So I'll be getting with Eric later this week to try to make sure that we get the artwork in for that one, so that I can go ahead and letter the dialoguing on that. And I have also I hear you there, Michael. I hear you. Michael's just saying that he's got same old his way. So so one of the interesting things about, I'd mentioned that we plan on doing a Zor spooky special this Halloween. Michael, the co-creator and who has been the artist on all the Zor pages up till now, said that he doesn't think he's going to be able to get it done, so he didn't want to sit there and sacrifice quality on the book. So he said to me, if I found an artist that we thought would be a good match for the series, that it was absolutely okay to bring in another artist. Just make sure Michael gets his credit as obviously being the co-creator of Zor, which I would never take that away from him. He absolutely helped, and I mean, mainly created the visuals for the character, and then from there, I chimed in some story elements. So I still feel like he did a lot more of the work than I did. So, but him giving the approval for that, I've brought in a really good artist for it. He's already sent me the first 5 pages penciled, and this book isn't even due to the printer until like August. So the idea that he is getting a jump on it in February is astounding, and something you don't typically see in indie comics. You normally see people waiting to the last minute, and so seeing him actually doing this type of amazing work already just makes me think that we've got plenty of time to make sure that we deliver a book that is exactly what you would hope for from us. I just had something trying to pair with my Bluetooth, and I don't even know what it would be. So that's coming. And then obviously, I think I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but I have begun writing a brand new junior high horrors book. So for the first time in like 3 years, junior high horrors will also be back later this year. So hopefully everybody's excited about that. Today, in other news, I went to the doctor. I had my annual physical. Doctor said that everything looked like it was mainly in good health, just should cut back on my drinking. And to him, I say, cheers, doc. So if you're in the audience, again, because I'm going solo, would love to see more comments about what's going on with you. That way we can actually have conversation going on. Obviously, I will talk about pro wrestling. I'll talk about what I've been watching, all that stuff that we typically do every week. But Tino said that he might not be able to make it until about 8 o'clock. So I didn't really want to try to get into the wrestling stuff until closer to that, because if he does make it onto the show, I don't want him to not be able to talk about what we obviously talk about on a regular basis. So, but like I said, went to the doctor. My doctor and I have been talking about, the colonoscopy stuff that, any man over a certain age should be getting done. And, just over the past couple weeks, we've lost multiple people to colorectal cancer. And that includes the lead singer of Three Doors Down. That includes James Vanderbeek. So I mean, hearing that people have been passing away from this, and people that are like my age. I mean, the lead singer of Three Doors Down, I believe, was 48. I believe James Vanderbeek was 48. I am 48. So hearing about all that, knowing that they've been going through it and struggling with it for years leading up till now, the doctor finally talked me into setting it up. So yeah, not excited about it. Tino talked about his. He talked a little bit about his wife's when she had hers recently. Mainly, we get the joking out of the way with that of like you end up having a. Michael's sitting there saying he's been boxing stuff up at home. Hopefully it doesn't mean you're moving or anything. I guess hopefully it's just setting it up to make more room, I think is what you're trying to say there. It says make M. I'm assuming make more room is what you were planning there. I've been thinking about doing the exact same thing. I've been thinking about seeing what I can actually give to Goodwill, and trying to make just room in my place, because I am a single person living in 1,200 square feet, and yet I can't seem to find a way to make more room in this house. Now, granted, I will say this: there are no drawers anywhere except my kitchen. So the idea of not having drawers to put stuff into kind of is the reason why I don't have any storage space. Um, so I've been thinking about getting either shelving or whatever and putting it up around the house, so that way I can get stuff up off the floor, make more room on the wall, on the middle of the floor space and everything else. So I totally understand you doing that, Michael. Like I said, I will probably be doing the same here in just a couple weeks. I need to figure out what size shelving and what kind of weight they can actually hold, so that I can figure out what exactly is going on everything. I also need to buy a new computer desk, because you guys remember hearing a couple weeks ago this one just exploding on me. And I now have a third monitor set up. So, well, technically second monitor, with my laptop, making 3 total monitors. So I want to make sure that I'm good to go with all that too. So yeah, see, Michael, one of the things I'm so happy about, Michael just sat here and said that he's been boxing up figures and pop vinyls and stuff. And I got to be honest, one of the things that I am so glad I never got into was Funko Pops. You'll see a couple behind me, like I've got a Superman one, and my buddy Terrence, who may be in the audience at this point tonight, gave me a Rocky Maivia, a Rowdy Piper, and a Finn Balor back there. But really the only other ones that I've got are the Dark Knight Returns, pretty much the whole set of that one, I think. And then I've got one of myself, and that's pretty much it. I really don't have too many pops. Although I have been thinking about asking my friend Viet to do a customized pop of Zor, one for both myself and Michael, so that we have one of those and we can show them off at conventions, because we know people that can actually make the boxes for them. Well, that's good to hear. Michael says that he's staying where he's living right now. He's not moving, which is good. Like, I hate moving. Moving is like the worst thing in the world. It's probably a little bit easier if you're moving all your stuff into like a storage unit and you're just moving into someone else's place. But even that, not a fan. So hopefully my moving for the foreseeable future is settled. I mean, I've been in this place now for over 5 years, almost, I think, six years. 2020. No, this will be the 6th year that I've been in this place. So, yeah. So that's, like I said, that's kind of what's going on with me. Went to the comic book store last week, picked up some cool stuff. Not sure whatever, if everybody else out there is reading comic books or what they're reading, but been enjoying the DC KO stuff because it just gives me pro wrestling vibes. Obviously the AEW DC Comics book came out. I did not buy it. Michael, if you did, you can tell everybody what you thought of it. Just wasn't really in tune with picking up a book about professional wrestlers and superheroes. It just didn't make a lot of sense. And I felt that the artist on the preview pages really drew Jon Moxley pretty terribly. So kind of left that one alone. But yeah, been watching quite a few shows recently. I did not update this, but I've been watching The Beauty, Memory of a Killer. If you guys haven't been watching those shows, Memory of a Killer, I believe, is actually on Fox, but also on Hulu the day after. The Beauty is on FX. It comes on Hulu on Thursdays. I think it's got about 5 episodes left for the first season, and it just gets crazier and crazier every single episode. So I've been blown away with what Ryan Murphy's doing with that show. Memory of a Killer, Patrick Dempsey is killing it as a assassin who all of a sudden starts believing that he might be having the early settings of onset Alzheimer's. So that show has been really kind of keeping me entertained. I mentioned that I watched all the new season of The Lincoln Lawyer last week, and one of the things that I have been doing recently is watching Homeland again. Not because basically because when I started watching it, I was watching it while it was on Hulu, and then all of a sudden one day it just randomly disappeared off of Hulu, and it wasn't on anything that I could watch it on. So I had to wait until it actually came back to a streaming service that I could watch it on. It's now on Netflix, so I'm watching it there. If you've never watched it, I'd say it's pretty good. Also, if you're like me and pretty much have all the streaming services at this point, I'll go ahead and tell you. During the Olympics, Apple TV and Peacock are actually running a special where you can bundle them. I say that because I know that a lot of us as pro wrestling fans were thinking about getting rid of Peacock. I like to keep it because I watch Law and Orders, I watch those shows, but I also watch Notre Dame football, which is broadcast on there. So if I don't have an antenna hooked up, I can guarantee I get my Notre Dame football. But it hadn't been bundled with anything, and now with all of the streaming services being like $23, $24 each, or $14, $15 with no commercials, I noticed that Apple TV is $12.99, which is the first time they raised their price, and I believe Peacock is either $12.99 or $14.99 for no commercials. So the idea of being able to bundle those both together and getting them no commercials for $20, I figured now was a good time to tell everybody to save your money if you're watching both of those networks anyway, by bundling them together. Obviously, I've got Hulu, ESPN, and Disney Plus all bundled together as well. So if you want to try to save money, the best way to do it is by bundling whichever ones you can. Keep in mind, though, in a lot of cases, they do not automatically cancel your one subscription. So you got to make sure that if you bundle it, you know which one you bundled it on. And then you also got to make sure that you're canceling the other one. So keep that in mind. Other than that, hadn't really been watching too much. I've been watching a lot of stuff, but I feel like I'm rewatching a lot of stuff that has been off the air for a little while or whatever. So I was thinking I might go rewatch Billions, but right now I'm watching Homeland, which is 8 seasons. I think I'm in season 4, so I got a little ways to go on that, which is nice. Couple of other shows just came back. Starfleet Academy, been watching that, and I've been enjoying it. A lot of people have been giving it a hard time. I've been enjoying it. Some of the acting is a little bit less than what you anticipate from a current Star Trek iteration. I think it's because they've got younger actors playing, obviously the students. So it's like, I don't like the Klingon on it. I think he's terrible. But the main characters I've actually pretty much enjoyed. So even though some people have been giving it a hard time, I've enjoyed those characters and thought they've been doing pretty well. And Paul Giamatti made a return in episode 6 after being in either episode 1 or 2, and that was a fun time. So he's always good in that show. So I hope that we're not just getting him like, oh, we got him for 2 episodes. I feel like the way that they left things with episode 6, he should be back by the finale of the season. And Michael's sitting here saying pre-order the new Lego Batman and WWE 2K26. Actually, it's funny that you say that, Michael, because I didn't order either of those games. Though, by the way, the Lego Batman games are typically amazing, so I do recommend them. And WWE with the CM Punk storyline looks like it's going to be fun this year. I might wait until it becomes like a PlayStation Plus free game or on Game Pass. But I did actually pre-order a video game today. For those that don't know, I really like the Resident Evil video game series. So with them having Requiem coming out in, I believe, 11 days. I think it comes out on the 27th. I pre-ordered it today digitally through my PlayStation because I was like, I know I'm going to buy it anyway. I know I'm going to play it, so I might as well get whatever the pre-order bonuses are and everything else. So likely when that game comes out, random times during the week, up until we either do this show or whatever, if you catch my Twitch stream, which is Rob Potsy Pochak, I will likely be streaming Resident Evil 9. So pretty excited about that. And today I was bored. I was like, I'm not going anywhere before the show. Then Tino messaged saying that he's going to be late getting to the show. So I was like, okay, it gives me a little bit of prep time, whatever. Obviously, I still launched the show on time. But one of the things that I did, like I said, I pre-ordered that game. But then one of the things that I'd been wanting to do that I hadn't done, and I didn't realize the game's been out 2+ years already, was go back and play Alan Wake 2 again, because they came out with an update to it for after you finish the game. They call it the final draft, and it's supposed to change up the way things play out versus how they played out in your first time. So I will be playing that for another couple days, I figure, anytime I'm bored and don't have anything going on. Michael asks, do you think GTA 6 will make back all its money when it comes out this year? Well, you are being very hopeful in the idea that the game is actually going to meet its ship date. And yes, they have spent I believe the proper term for it is shit ton of money on the game. Will they make it back? Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to print money. People are saying that the game might be the first game ever to cost $1 billion to make. That's not going to be the case. Even video games that take a really long time to put out and are your AAA titles, they almost always, like if they have a $200 million budget, and I don't know what the budget is on it, Michael. So if you know, go ahead and put it in the chat. But if the game was over $200 million, it will make that back. Call of Duty makes that kind of money every year, and the game's trash. So, and anybody who wants to fight me on that, go ahead, try. I can sit there and make fun of that all I want, because for 15 years of my life, I dealt with people trying to tell me that the game is different every year, and they add new modes, and they add new this and that. Call of Duty every year is the same exact game it was the year before. And you can tell me that Madden is, and you're likely right. That's why I don't buy sports games every year. But to tell me that the game is completely new and different, and then the first thing that you advertise is that your multiplayer maps for a game are the same multiplayer maps that you know and love, is fucking bullshit. And it's just terrible, terrible bullshit. Like, I don't want to play the same multiplayer maps. First of all, I don't want to play the multiplayer game at all, which means Call of Duty is not the game for me anyway, because all you give me is like 2 hours of a demo to try to figure out how to actually play the multiplayer, and then I don't play the multiplayer. So I'm not paying $70 for your fucking game in the first place. And sorry, I'm going on a rant when it comes to Call of Duty at this point, Michael, but like the facts are pretty simple. The game is exactly the same every year. You just give me different weapons, or you give me like a 2-hour story in it. And for me to be interested in a game, like I looked at what it said. I played Spider-Man 2. I played it 19 hours. 19 hours on a single player game is a good amount of time if you're playing it once. If you're playing it more than once and getting 19 hours out of it, probably not the best game. And unfortunately, nowadays, you get so many games that sit there and try to give you all these bells and whistles because they don't give you the substance of an extension of the game, which to me just kind of defeats the purpose of the video game. Like, I love video games, and yet at this point, when I am sitting there playing a video game, if I don't get enough time out of it, I feel like I wasted my money. So a couple of the games that I actually really like, because, for example, they came out with these games called the Dark Pictures games, and they're made by a company called Supermassive, which has also done The Quarry. They've done Until Dawn, and they just did one called something about Frank something or other, and it's based in the Dead by Daylight series of games. But when they come out with the games in the Dark Pictures saga, they know that they're only giving you like a 4-hour narrative, and it's like a choose your own adventure. So first of all, you can replay them 30 times and you're not going to get the same outcomes, which is pretty awesome. But one of the things that I really like about that series is that you only get like 4 hours out of the main playthrough, but they only charge you $20. And to me, I feel like that is a fair amount. So the video discusses the rumor that they have a $265 million. So here's the thing there, Michael. Again, with Grand Theft Auto, when they come out with a game like that, first of all, they're going to have 3 different editions of the game, if not more, right? You're going to have your standard edition, which might be $80 for Grand Theft Auto, just because they feel like, okay, this is going to be the biggest game ever made. Second is probably going to be your $100 to $150 deluxe edition, which will give you some extra content in the game, but it's also going to give you in-game money, and it's going to give you, I don't know, some skins and some bullshit that are pretty stupid and aren't really necessary. And then you're going to have like the $300 to $500 edition, which is going to be the really cool super one that gives you like a jacket or something with it, because they want to give you like a neon pink Vice City jacket or something. That one is going to help drive the sales of the game regardless. And unfortunately, what a lot of these companies do now is they put out those special editions and they don't even put the game in the box. They give you a digital code for the game, so you get the exact same version of the game, and then you get the tchotchkes and whatever. Or you just buy the box with all the random shit in it, and then you buy the game completely separately, which to me is a horrible, horrible business plan. But it's what companies do. EA is known for it at this point. I remember at one point they did a Mass Effect Collector's Edition where you got like the orange laser arm thing, the biotic weapon, and you didn't even get the game. And it was like, what the fuck is this? Why do they call that the collector's edition if you don't even get a copy of the game with it? I thought that was bullshit. But $265 million, yes. The game will probably bring Take-Two, if I had to guess, let's say it actually is, they're saying what, September-ish for that game? If it comes out in September, by Christmas or by January 1st, it'll have probably done $500 million. It might have even done more. And that's only if Take-Two decides they want to give us the figures on it. Now, granted, by the time their fiscal quarter comes around, that they'll have to release that information, so they'll then tell everybody. So if you're asking me, what I would tell you is, as their stock price starts to go down because the game is already going to be late, buy stock in the company, and after that first quarter of earnings, when they announce that they have now had a record quarter, sell the shit out of it. Just get out of it, because the problem that you run into, and you know, a lot of people don't really take this stuff into account, but I try to when I'm trying to give any type of advice on how to make money or whatever. Rockstar is going to have an amazing first quarter that game comes out. By the way, the reason why they don't put the game out on PC at the same time that they put the game out on the PlayStation and the Xbox is because they need to have another good quarter. So if you notice, what they're likely to do is put the PC version out between 9 and 12 months after they put out the console version, so that way they can get everybody to buy the PC version and jump sales again. Because again, Rockstar Games print money. So so I hope that helped, Michael. Yes, they will make their budget back. The advertising budget will, interestingly enough, a lot of times video games, differently than movie companies, one of the things that comes in here is the video game companies, Microsoft and Sony, are going to try to buy the advertising rights for Grand Theft Auto. What I mean by that is all the videos that you end up seeing, all the ads that you see on TV, streaming, everything else, Microsoft and Sony are going to fight for those ads. And the reason why is because they're going to want it to say Xbox, jump in. And then they only advertise it saying that it's coming out on Xbox, and there might be a very little PlayStation logo. PlayStation does the same shit. So they're going to likely try to do it as well. So you're going to see that Rockstar's probably going to make a lot of that money back before they ever even launch the game, because people are going to want it for their platform. So Sony and Microsoft are both going to fight to get that advertising money, because then who do you end up buying the game for and downloading it from? You buy it from the one that you see the ad for. They think that us as consumers, we are dumb enough to where we don't know that the game's coming out for both systems. They literally think that we're that dumb. So keep that in mind. All right. I feel like I have talked my ear off for 30 minutes about that stuff. So now it is time to start getting into the meat and potatoes of pro wrestling. So Tino might not make it tonight because I might be done in 30 minutes. I doubt it, but I might be. So we're going to start with Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw from last week, which had a World Tag Team Championship, the Usos versus the Alpha Academy, which I guess they're calling themselves the Alpha Babes now. I guess. I don't know. Maxine Dupree versus Natalia. I'm sorry, Natty. Don't want to mistake that one. She might come and beat me up. Elimination Chamber qualifying match, Rhea Ripley, Lyra Valkyria, and Ivy Nile, and another Elimination Chamber qualifying match between LA Knight, Penta, and Austin Theory. So the very beginning of Raw started kind of weird because you saw CM Punk show up, and then he stops, and you see his wife AJ Lee sitting on something in the backstage area, and then they get up and she starts skipping to inside the place, and Becky Lynch shows up right behind them and just looks angry, and she immediately just passes them and goes all the way up through Gorilla down to the ring. And then she's immediately interrupted by AJ Lee, who, between the two of them, had what I considered more of a funny segment than anything else, but it led to them setting up a match for Elimination Chamber between AJ Lee and Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't know how I feel about it. Everybody was thinking this was going to be your WrestleMania match. May still be a WrestleMania match. Saying Becky hates AJ, LOL, so funny. I agree. I really do enjoy the interaction that the two of them have with each other. And it, what makes it even funnier is that AJ comes across as almost oblivious to as to why Becky doesn't like her, and she just riles her up even more from it. So I do enjoy those moments. But yeah, for Elimination Chamber, this is a match now set up. And even Bleacher Report said it's a shame that this match will happen on the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view because this is a legitimate main event worthy contest. Question is, where would it be a main event? Because it's not going to be a main event on WrestleMania. It's not going to be a main event on a PLE. You might get a random Monday Night Raw that you could put that match on, but putting it in Chicago makes more sense to me. World Tag Team Championships, the Usos versus the Alpha Academy. I thought this was a banger of a first match of the night. The The crowd was really behind Akira Tozawa. So good on him. His transformation has been amazing. The work that he's actually able to do is great. And the match was fun. What is up, Mr. Helios? Always a pleasure to see you, sir. But yeah, so the Usos defeated them to retain the tag team titles. It was nice to actually see. And what made this great was they delivered the 1D to Otis, not to Tozawa. So they showed they could actually pick the big boy up. Next up, we got a Liv Morgan promo. Liv Morgan's trying to sit there and say she's not ready to pick who she wants at WrestleMania. And it was nice to see Dominic Mysterio be her translator. I know that a lot of different shows have been talking about how it's a waste of use of Dominic Mysterio, but it is actually very good that they can get past that language barrier by having him be the translator for both Stephanie Vaquer and Liv Morgan. It allows there to be real heat between the two of them, and I'm okay with that. Rhea Ripley versus Lyra Valkyria versus Ivy Nile. So, it's funny that Tino's not here because Tino loves, well, he doesn't love it. He hates when I sit there and I give a ton of shit to AEW for bad booking. And here, we had Rhea Ripley win this match, and it was a complete waste. It's a complete waste of time. It literally makes me think that they are just doing it to make sure that she's in a prominent spot before whatever match she gets at WrestleMania, which right now looks like it's just going to be a tag team match because she's part of the tag team champions. So the whole idea that Rhea Ripley is going to be in this elimination chamber is just a waste of time. Unless she's pulling double duty at WrestleMania, which, no one's going to be upset if Mommy does that. But I don't know. I wanted to see Lyra Valkyria win this match, but what I really wanted to see was Ivy Nile sneak out a victory here. And mainly because I think Ivy Nile is so tragically underrated. She's probably, she's literally like a pit bull. She's little, tiny, and just full of power. And I want to see them actually do something with it. And she's just stuck in the spot of being at the bottom of the maybe mid card. Like it felt like they threw her in this match just to throw her in the match. They should have just made a singles match between Lyra and Rhea Ripley. And then I feel bad for Lyra for the same reason I feel bad for Ivy Nile, because Lyra has been having amazing matches all for the last year. And she keeps losing every big match she's in. What's the point of pushing her to a point so that you can just make her lose 6 months in a row? I don't understand it. Rhea Ripley didn't need the win. I was very disappointed with how this match ended up going. Obviously, we're not getting Roman Reigns for the rest of February, so we got to have something for CM Punk to do, and it's Finn Balor. And I'm all for it. I said last week on the show, and by the way, apparently after I said it on Monday on our show, Busted Open had at least one person say it on their show. I believe it was Bully Ray, said that Finn Balor should beat CM Punk in Chicago for the World Heavyweight Championship and really throw a wrench in what everyone thinks the plan is for WrestleMania. I'm all for it. 100% behind it. Said it last week. Said we need something to just have you sit there and go, oh shit, did that just happen? And we do need that, and this is the way to do it, because here's the reality behind this. We're gonna get Roman Reigns versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. The fun part is, how do we get there? And how do we make it happen? Especially if what we do is we take the title off of Punk ahead of time. Because Roman won the Royal Rumble. So he gets the championship match. So Punk would have to get a rematch before it. And we know that Roman is going to be on Raws between March and April. So the idea that Punk would have to figure out a way to win the title back without getting screwed out of it by Roman Reigns is amazing. Michael just said that we need it for the women's division too. I'm okay if they just keep rolling with the women's division for right now and then throw a real shock and awe moment in the night after Mania. Because you don't want to do the same thing with both divisions at the same time. So after you solidify what you're doing with the men's division, then the night after Mania, you can sit there and, as Triple H likes to say, enter a whole new era. Because every week we're in a whole new era, apparently. I guess that's what they do. But I really enjoyed the segment between Finn Balor basically throwing a temper tantrum and CM Punk finally being the one that told Adam Pearce to give him his way. And I love it. And I'd love even more to see Finn Balor come out as the Demon and actually beat him. It's not going to happen, but would love it. Maxine Dupree versus Natty. And this is the Natty that we've been seeing in like Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. This is the Natty that we've been seeing in AAA. This is not Vince McMahon's Natalya who used to fart. This is not the Natalya that is always there patting everybody on the back because of how great they're doing when they win their first match. This is Natalya. This is Natty Neidhart from the dungeon, ready to beat someone's ass. This is literally like the Natty you'd have wanted to see against Shayna Baszler. That's what you would have wanted to see. This is the Natty that you would have wanted to see against Ronda Rousey in the Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. And then it would have been a fucking banger. Because she's scary when she's on. And she still got it. She holds the record for most WWE matches by a woman all time. And she does not get the praise she deserves, folks. No contest. AJ Lee made the save. Don't know why they're doing that unless they're going to end up making that a tag team match either before Elimination Chamber or at Elimination Chamber. Probably just to get AJ Lee more reps. I don't know. Next match up was Javon Evans and Original El Grande Americano versus Rayo and Bravo. Which, by the way, this is how bad some of the booking is in WWE. Rayo, as was explained by Corey Graves, is in the red mask and outfit, and Bravo is in the blue mask and outfit. I joked when the tallest of the Tongans showed up, Hikalea, and they changed it, and I said they should change his name to Tala Tonga, and then they made him Tala Tonga. I was kidding when I said they should do it, but that's what they made his name. This is just lazy. Obviously, Evans and Original El Grande Americano defeated Bravo and Rayo. I want to point out something that's been coming up all over the internet. So, Javon Evans with his OG cutter is absolutely astounding to watch. And you guys probably all agree with me that his cutter is the best that you've probably seen since Randy Orton. And it is. But I gotta ask, why in the blue fuck is Bravo jumping off the top rope to nobody in the ring, doing a splash, and getting hit with a fucking cutter? There was nobody in the ring. Did he roll out of the way? Maybe. But that's just adding insult to injury then. Like, this was horrible, folks. Like, the cutter looked great. But there was nobody in the ring for him to actually be going after. So why would he do that? Stupid. It was stupid. Elimination Chamber qualifier match. Penta versus LA Knight versus Austin Theory. Out of the three of them, only one guy really had an opportunity to win that. And that was LA Knight. So again, they went with the easy booking, I feel like. Except they went with the easy booking of putting a guy that everybody actually pays to see and screams out his name just so he can lose again. Like, he's not winning and going against Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. In fact, have you guys heard what the plan is for LA Knight right now based on backstage blah, blah, blah from Sean Ross Sapp or whatever? It's pretty stupid. Right now, the rumor backstage, and by the way, I don't really think that this is the case. This is why I'm trying to debunk it right now. The rumor right now is LA Knight versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. If they go that route, and let's say there's a 30% chance they go that way because right now Triple H is changing the booking backstage all the goddamn time like Vince McMahon did the last 5 years he was there. If they go that route, I don't see it being good for LA Knight. I don't see him beating Brock Lesnar. I don't see him getting the win. I don't see it helping his career. I see him just being another stepping stone for Brock Lesnar, who, by the way, has only had 2 matches since his return. And the one was a squash of John Cena, and the other one was a War Games match. Oh, and the Royal Rumble. Yeah. So he's been back 3 times, and he came back in August. It's been 6 months, and he's made 4 appearances, 5 appearances. That's getting your money's worth. Yeah. So LA Knight wins this match. He's going on to Elimination Chamber right now. Before we get to SmackDown, that makes it Randy Orton and LA Knight in the Elimination Chamber. Sounds like a pretty fun one. We've got one guy that's won 14 world championships, so he doesn't need to do it. And we've got another guy who's never won the world championship, but never seems to make it above that little spot to actually get the opportunity to win the championship. He's had 1 championship match, I believe, in his entire career in WWE. He had it against Roman Reigns. And I thought he did really great in that match. So I don't know. It's all right. Those are my feelings on Monday Night Raw. I'm going to move on to NXT, which I watched last week, and was a fun show. Now that Ava is gone from NXT and Shawn Michaels gave Robert Stone. That's his name, Robert Stone. So Robert Stone looks like a guy who was literally thrown into a job, knows nothing about how to do it, and he's learning it on the fly. And you know what? That's exactly what he is. He's a guy that literally got thrown into the job, has no idea what's going on, and is trying to make sure that his interim title becomes a full-time gig. And I'm all for it. He's doing amazing in that role. And if you haven't checked it out, you need to watch him on NXT. This past week, we had Josh Briggs versus Eli Knight in a speed number one contenders match. Eli Knight wins this match, by the way. I think it's a terrible name. And the reason why is because you already have LA Knight. So you're going to have LA Knight and Eli Knight on the same show. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. But he beats Josh Briggs, who just like 2 months ago was going after Obafemi for the NXT championship. So I don't know what the hell they're doing with Josh Briggs, but he is definitely on his way down the card. Hank and Tank versus the Vanity Project, Blake Monroe versus Jada Parker, and Ren QCC versus Zaruka for the number one contender for the women's singles title. Whoever gets the pinfall gets that match. Say his name and he appears. Joe Hendry comes out with the NXT Championship and sits there and says, "We are NXT. We believe," and tries to set up a new era in NXT, and ends up having, let me make sure I get his name right, Jackson Drake come out and basically show off his Evolve Championship and get himself a title match against Joe Hendry for later in the night. Totally fine with it. You're basically saying like a couple weeks ago, I sat there and said to Tino that I was really afraid for the men's division in NXT because I didn't know who they had in there anymore. And now all of a sudden you're getting Evolve people involved. You're getting more and more of the tag teams involved in the men's division. And suddenly the men's division looks stacked with people I don't know, which means I get to learn new people. I'm totally fine with that. Booker T. I really wanted Tino's opinion on this one. Booker T has made Joe Hendry's theme music into his new favorite karaoke song. And if you haven't heard him singing it, it is incredible. It is one of my new favorite things. And he's so excited about it. It's like, when Joe Hendry does the spin, Booker T's like, "Oh my God, I've never seen that before." And it's like, he literally does it every week, Book. And it's like, well, no, he doesn't. I've never seen it. It's incredible. So if you haven't seen or haven't heard what Booker T is doing there, he is doing something special with Joe Hendry's entrance music, making it must hear again. Jada Parker versus Blake Monroe. This is a double count out. I get why they go with the double count out. Obviously, they're showing that the two women just are so angry with each other that they don't pay attention to the referee. Match ends up getting called out, and obviously it's going to be because they want to actually set up another match, maybe a stipulation match that the two of them get to continue on this feud, and I'm okay with that. Josh Briggs versus Eli Knight. Like I said, Knight ends up beating Josh Briggs, but I really don't like the fact that his name is Eli Knight, and I think that WWE is going to have to change his name because we're not going to make LA Knight Max Dupree again. Weird enough, so Tommaso Ciampa showed up on AEW television just a couple weeks ago, and he's got this new gimmick called Psycho Killer, and all of a sudden Booker T and the other commentator are talking about the scariest man on the planet, blah blah blah, and then Booker T's like, "He's right behind you, Vic. He's right behind you, right behind you." And then Vic turns around and he's like, "Oh my God, it's the Psycho Killer." Now, granted, it's an advertisement for a movie written by the same guy that wrote Seven. So I will likely go see this film, but I feel like they missed an opportunity to give Tommaso Ciampa a contract so that they could actually do this advertising thing. Dark State has made many enemies as the tag team champions. Yeah. Joe Hendry versus Jackson Drake. The match goes down. Pretty good, pretty solid match. The one thing I've always held against Joe Hendry is that he feels like an old school wrestler trying to do new school moves. And he comes around as like a lumbering guy where like when you're going up against a guy like Jackson Drake or Ricky Saints or Javon Evans or any of those people, I feel yes, I believe in Joe. But there's something that I feel like is lacking in his wrestling that is there for everything else he does. So I'll just leave it at that. But he defeats Jackson Drake, and after he does, Ricky Saints comes out and beats him down. And then Swipe Right versus Hank and Tank. Swipe Right defeats Hank and Tank. And then we get the main event, which is the Zaruka match versus Ren QCC. So that's Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray, the Evolve Women's Champion. And match was fine for what it was. Both Sol Ruka and Zarya are pinning their opponents at the exact same time. Sol Ruka ends up getting the 1-2-3 because that's what the referee saw. And you could see how upset Zarya was after the match. So interesting how they're going with that so far. Now I got to talk about AEW. So let me go ahead and get that up on the screen for everybody. This is going to be Dynamite mainly, and there's certain things I want to talk about on it because this was before they went to Australia. So this was from Ontario, California, which is probably where they actually flew out of. Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland come to blows in first face-off. And I like this because it kept both men hot. Kenny's talking about how he's in better shape than he's been in years. Swerve Strickland's saying, every time I turn around, Kenny's nowhere to be found because he's out injured again. So maybe I'll have to be the one that injures him this time. So they come to blows. Totally fine with that. Then we get our first match of the night, which is Death Riders versus Don Callis family. Didn't need this match at all. Don't know how you guys felt about it, but Moxley, Castagnoli, and Pac beating Josh Alexander, Mark Davis, and Takeshita by pinfall, completely unnecessary. And obviously the reason why they did this match was because it's setting up Grand Slam Australia where it's Takeshita versus Moxley. Just boring to me. Just boring. And then we get the next moment I'm going to tear up, rip apart, and just be angry with. And that is Tommaso Ciampa versus Kyle Fletcher. Tommaso Ciampa has now been in AEW for, as of that moment, 11 days. He won the title on his third day with the company. He then won another match on his, I guess, seventh day with the company, where he beat Castagnoli and Roderick Strong all at once, which hell of a match. Talked about it last week, said it was a hell of a match. And then you immediately have him lose to Kyle Fletcher. I get Kyle Fletcher is the big name that's going to be at Australia because he's Australian. But why not just have Tommaso Ciampa lose the championship 3 days later at Grand Slam Australia instead of having a ladder match against Mark Briscoe, which I have to be honest with you, as good as that match was, I didn't give a shit about it because I was still pissed off about the Tommaso Ciampa losing Sylvie 3 days after, 11 days after he won it. Like, what was the point of bringing him in and having him win a championship in his first match just to have him lose in his third match? Fucking garbage. And he's been stellar since he's been there. So taking it away from him, which was actually making people like me interested in your product, just makes me want to sit there and give up on it already. Was the match good? Yes. The match was stellar. It was you didn't know if the match was going to end up going to a time limit draw, which also would have been fine. You didn't know if it was going to go one way or the other. So many kickouts in 20 minutes, and Kyle Fletcher gets the win. If this was 2 months down the line, I wouldn't have a problem with it because at least then you would have established Tommaso Ciampa. But instead, you're playing hot potato with the title, and you're doing it with the guy that has 3 total matches with your company. It's just fucking bullshit. Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong versus Clark Connors and Daniel Garcia. Didn't give a shit about that match at all. Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong defeat the match, although Roderick Strong walked out on him. Number one contenders match, the Young Bucks versus the Rascals versus the Wild Card, which ended up being Private Party. Guess who won, guys? Yes. Just be excited about it. Such a great match. The Young Bucks ended up winning. And then, we'd already had one title change hands on this random episode of Dynamite. So we decide, let's go ahead and do a world title strap match between Chris Statlander and Tekla, the first ever women's strap match on AEW television. And incredible match. But just on a random episode of Dynamite, you take the belt away from Chris Statlander. Why? What was the point? Especially against Tekla, where I don't really feel like they built her up to actually be women's world champion. So I don't know. Anybody got an opinion about any of that? Because that was your that was your AEW Dynamite show. Now I'm going to go over the SmackDown results. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about Grand Slam Australia first. Because I kind of feel, since I'm already talking about AEW, might as well get this out of the way. Your card for the night: MJF versus Brody King for the Men's World Championship. Babe Zareth versus Mega Bad for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe for the TNT Championship. Tony Storm and Orange Cassidy versus Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta. Loser of the match, whoever takes the pinfall, gets their head shaved. Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita for the Continental Championship. And Adam Page, Hangman versus El Idolo Andrade for winner gets the number one contendership against the winner of the main event of the night. So we start the night with Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita. They go to a time limit draw, and the crowd goes banana, but not in a good way. The crowd went banana in a bad way. They were not happy with the way that this match ended. And after the match ended, for those that want kayfabe broken, here you go. After the match ended, Jon Moxley sat there, went over to the ref, and told the ref to tell Takeshita to hit him with his finisher, so that way at least the crowd would go home having seen something. And that happened, and the crowd continued to boo. You can't have a championship match to start the show end in this kind of way and expect people to be happy with it. And they weren't. So it's just how it went. Moxley still your AEW Continental Champion. Next up was hometown favorite Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale, the Babes of Wrath, versus Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne, also known as Mega Bad, which, once again, you don't have to have tag team names for every fucking tag team, folks. You don't. Babes of Wrath defeat Mega Bad. The match was good, paced, fun, blah, blah, blah. Crowd was firmly on the side of Harley Cameron, obviously. And then their debut was cut short by Lena Cross, who apparently just has a big purple streak of hair and is just as big as Megan Bayne. So suddenly they have the world's largest women's division. Although Nia Jax by herself ends up making up most of the WWE's. Next up, Hangman Adam Page versus Andrade El Idolo. By the way, I want to point out, so far, no championships have changed hands on Grand Slam, just so you know. Adam Page versus El Idolo. Hangman, just the way that Tino basically said it was going to happen, Hangman ends up winning the match. El Idolo gets to go back down to the, goes down a rung after this. You know, they made him look like a main eventer for 3 weeks, and now he gets to go back down a rung. The funny part about this match, if you watched it, was the fact that there was another OnlyFans model in the audience and wanted to take a picture with El Idolo, kissed him on the cheek, and he actually looked like he was shocked by it. And then after Hangman knocked him out, he comes up, he takes a picture with the girl. She tries to kiss him, and he goes, "No, I'm married," which I thought was absolutely hysterical. So, kudos to him for wanting to stay as a dad there. Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm versus Wheeler Yuta and Marina Shafir. We knew who was going to lose this match. It doesn't mean the match wasn't entertaining, but we knew there was no way either of those ladies were getting their head shaved. And Orange Cassidy would look almost exactly the same with or without hair. So Orange Cassidy leaves Tony Storm actually get the pinfall here. And Wheeler Yuta takes the L. And Jon Moxley comes down and looks just disappointed in him because he's complaining that he shouldn't have to get his head shaved. I wouldn't have shaved your head. And then he's like, no, you get out there. And Wheeler Yuta now looks like a hairless dog. Yeah. So this is going to help Yuta because Yuta obviously is getting booed out of buildings anyway. So this is just going to make him even angrier. Totally fine with that. Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe, the 7th match in a best of 7, even though they obviously had gaps in between all that. Ladder match. It was fine. It was a good ladder match. It wasn't a great ladder match. It wasn't the best ladder match. I think that you put Briscoe in those kinds of matches because he's willing to do anything with his body. I think that if you had Tommaso Ciampa in this match as a third contestant, the match would have been stellar. But instead, just having the two of them, it was fine. It was good, I guess. And then your world championship, by the way, again, no championships so far had changed hands. We're now going with MJF versus Brody King. Remember, Brody King beat MJF in less than 2 minutes on a Dynamite to actually get this world title chance. This match started at like 2 hours and 6 minutes of the broadcast, which I thought was only supposed to be a 2-hour broadcast. Obviously, they get their overrun and whatever, but went about 28 minutes or so. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to the actual amount of time, but both of those guys beat the hell out of each other. And for those of you that watched the MJF Chris Van Vliet video where he said he's already proven he's the best on the mic. He's already proved he's the best under 30 wrestler out there, whatever he wants to say. He said now he's got to prove to everybody that he is the best wrestler on the planet. And you know, last year he wrestled 13 total matches. Now he's already wrestled more than that, more than, you know, a fraction of that within a month. And the only thing you worry about here is what does it mean for Brody King, who is a monster of a man, and he just lost to MJF clean in the middle of the ring. No interference. So what does that mean for him now that he obviously showed he can't win the big one? Do they go ahead and they put him into a TNT title spat with Kyle Fletcher? Do they put him in a continental match against Jon Moxley? You did everything you could to build him up over the past like 5 weeks. Now I just think that you're just going to delegate him back to either Brodito or something else. And the guy's proven now that like he is a legitimate badass and should be in the main event. So great that you tried to create a guy like that, but what are you going to do with him now? That's what worries me about it. Overall, thought the show was pretty good. Surprisingly, the inspiration did not show up during this, and a lot of people had thought that they would, especially since I believe Cassie Lee is from, actually, I believe they're both Australian. And interestingly enough, they did something called House Rules the next day, and that's when they showed up, and it was a house show. Maybe it was to get them reps. I don't know. I don't think they actually wrestled. I think they just came out and like started talking shit to people. As far as I know, they're signed to contracts now. So I just thought that was a little bit weird. I don't know. But let's go into SmackDown. So, Cody Rhodes versus Sami Zayn versus Jacob Fatu, an Elimination Chamber qualifier. Alexa Bliss versus Julia versus Zelina Vega in a Chamber qualifier. Ray Phoenix versus Trick Williams. Rhea Ripley versus and Io Sky versus Last Legend and Nia Jax for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And Jade Cargill versus Jordynne Grace for the Women's WWE Championship. By the way, again, no championships changed hands at Grand Slam. So once again, on one of those crazy Saturday cards that AEW likes to put on live television, nobody changes. Tiffany Stratton comes out, and her promo gets cut short because Lash and Nia come out, and they start talking shit to Tiffy. Tiffy starts talking shit back. Tiffy really needs to drop the squeak in her voice if she can, because she needs to put a little bass in it, because she doesn't sound intimidating when she sounds like a mouse. But she gets cut short because Riho comes down to start that tag team match. Ends in a no contest. Kind of expected that. Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, Matt Cardona, Apollo Crews, Shinsuke Nakamura versus the MFTs. This was a clusterfuck of a match. No other way to say it. Because even when Nick Aldis said, why don't we just put all you guys in the ring together and make you all have one big 10-man match, Joe Tessitore just kept going, 10-man, 10-man, 10-man. And I love Joe Tess, but that was a bit much. The MFTs won. They were the team that actually was a group of people, so it makes sense. Alexa Bliss versus Julia versus Zelina Vega. Alexa Bliss is going to the Elimination Chamber? Oh my God. We finally got someone I didn't think Triple H was going to put in this match. And I only say that because every time he books Alexa Bliss, he books her to lose. So her winning this match means that right now she's in the Elimination Chamber and Charlotte Flair is not. Ray Phoenix versus Trick Williams. Happened exactly the way that you expected. Ray Phoenix, since he's been on WWE programming, has lost more than he's won. It's almost like we traded Speedball Mike Bailey for Ray Phoenix, and Speedball wasn't even on WWE television. Trick Williams did great with the chanting, by the way. Sorry, just saw that Brandon Bussey, the goaltender for the Carolina Hurricanes, that has been absolutely astounding in his rookie contest, has signed a new 3-year contract, $1.9 million per year. Good for him. Jordynne Grace versus Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill wins this match. I was a little surprised. I'd been hearing all week that WWE was thinking about making a change, putting the belt on Jordynne Grace. to find out that they put it on. They left it on Jade Cargill. Probably smart. I think that the plan was to have Bianca Belair versus her. Don't know what the yes sir, Southpaw. We can all ride the bus because hopefully he's going to take us to the promised land this year. And then we got Sami Zayn versus Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu. By the way, Sami Zayn was Drew McIntyre's pick to win this match, which I thought was odd. He's like, I actually like you, Sammy. I actually like you. But I don't know if it felt like it to anybody else, but I kind of felt like Sami Zayn was the push around guy during this match, just so that we could get something a little different between Cody and Jacob. But then it just felt like Sammy was being pushed around. Cody wins. That means right now in the men's elimination chamber, you have Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and LA Knight, which two of them I don't ever want to see in an elimination chamber between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. However, the good news is if they're not going Cody versus Drew at WrestleMania, which right now it looks like they are, but if they're not, this is the perfect way for Randy Orton to get revenge on Cody Rhodes for giving him a cutter during the Royal Rumble. Folks, that was your week of pro wrestling. Everything that I had listed, I've already talked about. So we're at an hour and 15 minutes. I know Tino's not here yet. He might actually be watching at this point, just going, yeah, I don't need to be on because you're almost done. Yeah, so Michael, I read the reports that Bianca Belair came out this week saying that she's going to finally have finger surgery for the finger injury that she's had for a year now. And I think she already had that surgery, but I don't know. So she could be saying that because we hadn't heard anything from her in so long, but it could just be a ruse. You never know with WWE. I mean, heck, Kevin Owens could show up tomorrow and be like, I'm back. So who knows? With that, though, I'm pretty much done, folks. I am pretty beat already, so I am going to call it a night. I hope everybody had a blast with me here in this hour and 15 minutes talking about everything from video games, comic books, TV shows that I've been watching, and obviously pro wrestling. We'll be back next week, me and Tino, talking about everything under the sun when it comes to this stuff once again, and hope everybody had a blast. No, I did. You can catch him on socials, I believe, SC Tino on most of them. I think it's SC Tino for most of those. Tino Gray Music on TikTok. You can follow me on everything. It's either Pochak on X, Rob Pochak on just about everything, and Rob Potsy Pochak on everything else. So please like, subscribe, follow, do all that good stuff on all of our socials. We'd really like it. We hope you had a blast. Again, I know I did. We'll see you next week. Thanks to Adam's House Cat. Even though we don't use them anymore, they were great to let us use their song for as long as we did. And, I hadn't said any Joneses or 99, so 99 Jones, folks. Good night, everybody.
Potsy and Tino.
For the Potsy and Tino show.
Thanks for watching.